lovely lady. Her name is Acurda Melchizedek. And Acurda is a specialist in working with the multidimensional aspects of DNA. She teaches people to access these codes in their holographic blueprints and recode them in order to live in their highest potential. So without any further ado, I could tell you a little bit more about her, but I'm going to bring her on and welcome her into the expo. Hello, Acurda. Welcome.
Robin, thank you so much. I'm also joined today by Fernando Vassar, my partner, and we would love to talk about all things quantum DNA.
Very good. So I'm going to leave you to it, and I'm going to go hide. Okay, so we'll see you in about an hour.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Such a pleasure to be here.
On the Higher Self Expo, we're going to be opening up a new realm of thought in DNA. Reposition how we see what is working inside of us in every cell, and what are the molecules that make up our presence here in third dimension. How is it that a soul can come through in a quantum way, a multidimensional way, and interact with other infinite beings of light incarnated here on this planet? That is the magic process we're going to open up. And how does this open the door to our ancestors and to the future, the possibilities of our bodies, the infinite arrangement of life, superpositioned, entangled? So this is the physics of DNA we're going to be speaking about from a heart-centered view. What do you think, Holly? Are we ready?
Thank you so much. So how do we come into this form? How does it happen? How do we go from the source self, the 0 point, the highest part of our aspect of God, of all that is, into this physical being? And for me, that transition is the most representative through DNA. And in the 12 strands of DNA, what I feel happens is that we first have the genetics of our ancestors, our mother and our father. And then as our soul starts to come in, we, our soul, all start to organize all of these different aspects of self that start to come forward to wield this body, to wield what we are going to experience, how we are going to experience. Then we start to wield all of our ancestral stories into this form, into this being, into all of the DNA, RNA, all of these different strands that create and take these stories and expand on them and bring them forward. And then we move into the third strand of DNA, which is all of our past lives as a soul. And we get to bring those forward and decide which ones we start to wield and want to wield, which ones we get to bring and create and take that geometry that created those stories through our thoughts and through our consciousness and create this new story. And so we get to take those geometry shapes, those colors, those frequencies, and wield them again in this fourth dimensional strand, this personal new soul story experience. And in this new soul story experience in the fourth dimension, we get to then create kind of where we left off with new light, new geometry, new consciousness, working on expanding our soul, our ascension, whatever that means to you. And we're in a unique opportunity right now through the fifth strand of DNA, which is that unity consciousness aspect. And we're now moving into that 5D reality of unity and what unity really means. When we start to transcend this aspect of the self-identification part of the fourth and the fifth D, and we move into the unification part, we start to then connect with the higher strands of DNA, which connect us to the galactic parts of ourself, our galactic family and our galactic stories. And when we start to connect to our galactic stories, there's a whole new realm of information and consciousness and light and geometry that we start to wield. And we start to realize that we are not just from this earth, but from all of the solar systems and all of the planets. And then as we get into the higher strands of DNA, these more quantum level strands, higher vibrations, which have the codings of all of our superpowers, our gifts, the new human, as a true reflection and true embodiment and true emanation of God in coherence with all that is. And then my belief is that when we get to the 12th strand, this 12th strand of DNA is the uncorruptible strand. And this uncorruptible strand is your God strand, just like we have God particles, the representation of the God particle in us. And this God particle and the God strand is uncorruptible outside of all of these stories. And when you work through the 12 strands of DNA and you become in coherence with each strand, clearing and recoding for the truth of who you are, for your magnificence, for your God, all of these strands start to come together and create a new coherence. Like each one has their own unique vibration of sound. And when they start to play together, they create a 13th harmonic. And this 13th harmonic then creates a whole new set of DNA at a higher quantum level. So a 24-stranded set of DNA and on up to the 144. And so what does that really mean? Is that these strands keep creating strands in a higher level of quantum modality. But what do they really do? They create a whole new grid system of frequency, of geometry in the morphogenetic field, in the holographic field, that allow you to create in higher forms of holograms. What are these dimensions that we talk about? They still are a set of cosmic rules or universal laws, right, that still deal with light, sound, and geometry and consciousness in different intricate patterns of a morphogenetic fibers that we move into, we make contact, and we morph around us. We've always been time travelers. We've always been teleporters, because at every moment we're wielding all of the holographic fibers, the morphogenetic fibers around us, creating ourselves, creating this planet, creating the solar system, because this is how powerful we are. And I believe that the 12-stranded DNA is kind of like the gateway to all of this understanding. And I believe that we're moving into a new system through the Akashic records right? That we're starting to witness that we are everything that has ever happened, everything that has ever been, and will be through the morphogenetic fibers of our DNA. And through the last 5 years of this study that I've done with DNA, this deep dive I've done with DNA, what I've started to really uncover is that DNA is really our master ancestor. And when we talk about 0 point and source and all of these things, I believe that this is really DNA, just at higher quantum levels. A really fabulous thing that was just come to my attention recently is the principle of panspermia. And it, like, when I heard that, it made so much sense to me that DNA is everywhere. It is in all things. And it is source. There's no separation. That we are now moving into understanding that light is DNA, that source is DNA, that 0 point is DNA. It's just our limited belief system that says that it has to be, 4 basic chemicals, RNA, DNA, proteins and bases all coming together. That is such a limited view of the potentiality of you and of what DNA really is. And so if DNA is our master ancestor, if it is the organizing principle of everything that is, can we shift the name from DNA to something else that really provides the infinite possibility and magnificence that it really is? And we've downloaded the Akasha Nova, the Akasha Novis, for what were once termed DNA, and would like to start bringing this platform, this consciousness forward, this embodiment forward into our knowing, so that it can start to have the frequency and the magnitude of our infinite potential and possibility with everything.
The way we've talked about how to reposition what we see as DNA is first to deconstruct that story that we were told in school, in science, that was devoid of spirit, a science that we were taught, the genetics that is missing the soul component. So here's how we're going to extend that. Think of an acronym, and we call it MANTLE. The same mantle that is inherited when an ancestor, a living ancestor, your parents, your teachers, and I'm talking about your spiritual guide teachers in your life, when they transition, when they ascend, they leave behind a mantle of knowledge, of wisdom, experience, and prophecy of the future, so that our body absorbs that and it expands and amplifies what we are. So let's break up this mantle word. M, master. A, ancestor. N, novice. T, template. L, light. And E, electric. The new DNA concept, a multidimensional view of it is to connect with the inheritance of life so that we are the walking incarnated version of all of our ancestors, so that when we speak, when we act, when we move with consciousness through this reality, this very crazy COVID surreal reality, we are a representation of the earth itself, Mother Gaia, Pachamama. That's part of our inheritance, our mantle, where we act from the voice of our ancestors. That's the master ancestor from Earth, expanding through the solar system, through the galaxy, through the universe and the omniverses. And what is there? What is accessible to us right now? There are ancestors in our lineage that knew this was going to happen, this craziness right here on Earth, this reset of humanity. Let's just say 2012 on forward. We're going to see that this is going to be the time before the awakening and after the awakening. Like we say, before Christ and after Christ. It is after the awakening, after the receiving of the mantle, the reset of the way we see things. And the novus part, it means that we are writing the new realm. We are establishing the future right now. So we have access in all directions to that wisdom. From this point, we can access the future 1,000 years from now, 1,000,000 years from now, to a version of ourselves that looks angelic, to a version of ourselves that looks like came in a UFO from the future, with advanced technology that is no longer physical. That's the novus we're speaking of. And T, the template part, that means that we get to establish an alignment, a coherent, clean, undisturbed, uncorrupt connection to the truth of who and what we are, the true template of the universe, following universal law, natural law, not this version that we have here on earth. And the L part, the light, means that we get to experience ourselves as the basic elements that we are, the electricity that we are, the light, the sound, the gravity, the thought energy that we are, the magnetism that we are, the plasmatic beings that we are. When we look at the sun and receive that light, we know we are related to the star and to the solar system as it is an extension of our bodies. So when we step into drama here on earth, when we are challenged with that contrast of a tightening system of matrix technologies, we are to connect with the superior version of ourselves and become electric beings in an electric universe, calling upon all that we are. This is going to evolve our lives because now we know that inside our bodies, as Acurda is saying, is the capacity to connect with teleportation and time control and telepathic abilities and telekinetic interaction with matter, as our ancestors did. They are teaching us right now how to do that. When we extend our awareness and our consciousness to include all possibilities of life, that is what a true human being, the hue, color, rainbow, infinite human present being on earth is supposed to be about. To have access to the universal conversation of creator, bringing about an experience here on earth as we encounter, as we have here on our journey. And Acurda, share a little bit about what we've been seeing on this trip from New Mexico, going north to visit Sedona in Arizona, going around through Chaco Canyon, and we are right now in Taos, New Mexico, asking these questions. How do we define a spiritual place? Why are there locations that so-called conscious and spiritual people are attracted to? And how do we seed the novice, the new template of how to create a built environment, cities, technology, machines that follow universal law? This is a manifesto we're unfolding today. How's that for energy?
So a few months ago, we do a lot of hiking, and we were in the Gila National Forest, and I got this incredible download about the destruction of Tiamat, the planet Tiamat, and that some of those the beings from Tiamat actually came to Chaco Canyon, and that they were part of the star beings, the star family, that area, that tribe there started to communicate with. And we went to go and explore a lot of the petroglyphs that are there, and the frequencies of the petroglyphs, and the light language from the petroglyphs, and the stories of the Kachinas. And the morning that we got to Chaco Canyon, I started getting all of these downloads from different star systems of the information that they were bringing through for these people at that time. And a lot of it was genetics, and that they were giving genetic upgrades through telepathy and water as they were communicating with these people, because their planet was destroyed, and so they were basically sharing their ancestral stories in genetic form with these people. And I started to see that there wasn't just one group of people that came, or one star family, or one planet, or that there were several of the planets, not only in our own solar system, but beyond our solar system, have come to Earth to share technology and genetic information. And I shouldn't say share, it's more like activate, because we already have it. It was like a frequency activation. And so as we were at Chaco Canyon, all of these beings and ancestors came forward to talk. And as we were there, they were talking through my DNA. I could feel all the stories already in my DNA. It wasn't something that was coming outside of me. And I think this is why these sacred spaces, or these sacred areas, or like why people make all these pilgrimages to pyramids and sites, and is because there's a genetic information there for us that isn't anywhere else. It's like it activates, there's frequencies that activate that genetic information inside of us, and we feel those stories. We start to know those stories, and we identify with those people because they are us. So as we were there, I got to watch women being birthed, giving birth. I got to watch all the plants that they were bringing them, right, to help with the vasodilation of birth, and all the different ways that they had lived and built their structures, and the communications that they had, and how direct and pure their coherence was with the omniverse. And I got to see that because their coherence was so frequency vibrant and alive with color and spectrum and consciousness and connection, that there were all these different fabrics that started opening up, all these different grid systems that started opening up around this area. And it was all in these different layers that was represented, even though it's in one moment, one we'll say particle of light. It was represented in all these multidimensional layers of grid systems that were holding all of these levels of information, stories, in our inheritance that we could tap into.
How amazing is it to know that during the active times of Chaco Canyon, which I can see as a cosmic archaeologist that we both have become, following the path of the Atlantean mantle of inheritance of knowledge, the path of the Lemurian tribes that went across the world. How interesting is it that we had a time when we lived among off-world beings that were our relatives, our star family, the Kachina interaction, the teachings, the bringing of the seeds, the gifts that each Kachina brought, and the ceremonies in those kivas, right? We live in Silver City, New Mexico, which is down the street from the cave dwellings in the Gila wilderness, where imagine what it was like to have a space, a cave in nature, as many of the Mayan cultures and the Quechua cultures in Peru and in Mexico describe the underworld, the bridge between the inner earth, the Agarthan Shambhala earth, and the above surface people, and a time of giants, giant trees that were the size of a mile high, and beings that were also that big. The ancients talk about the primary DNA that was here on Earth, the experiment that was going on. Where did that go? Do we still have contact right now, living as we drive our cars, as we survive this craziness? Do we have access to that? And we're saying yes. As a matter of fact, right now, that access is amplified because we are to supersede any kind of radiation invasion into our bodies, chemical, any kind of contamination to our minds. When we say coherence, what we mean is an alignment, an attuning, an entrainment to truth of who and what we are. And what happens when we open that up? Our mind fuses the left and right hemisphere to become a third mind connected to the heart. The brain at the moment is to become an extension of the heart, an amplification of source, right? Are we seeing that right now? What is written in those petroglyphs? You see the symbols of beings that said we came from the stars. We know what constellations our ancestors have visited and where they teleported in and out, right? The famous vortices in Sedona of energy, the famous stories, a Genesis story. We've traveled to different parts of the world. We've seen the indigenous Genesis version of where we came from. Why is that important right now, Acurda? Why do we think we need to remember that?
What I feel about that is not so much of the Genesis story, but is the uncovering of the real story. And that so much of our soul story, our God story has been co-opted and corrupted, and we have been denied our sacred sites. We have been denied the truth of our existence. We have been denied that we're not the first civilization to be here. And what was so incredible about being at Chaco Canyon is going back to that multidimensional story is that place had been underwater at one point, and so there's fossils everywhere in the rocks, all kinds of different fossils. And there was this butte that was so big that used to be a tree, I mean talk about the land of giants. I mean, this tree was as big as a mountain. And so the Genesis story, these stories that we tell are only like one small part, if they're even true, one small part of the truth and the magnitude and the magnificence that we are. And for me, all of this uncovering started when I started doing deep dives with my DNA. When I started to learn how to work with these different aspects and these different frequencies inside my body, I started to be able to design, I call myself a DNA architect, to design myself out of the AI frequencies, the corruption frequencies, the mind control frequencies, the biogenetic distortions that are happening right now. And for me, that mechanism was through DNA. And we have the opportunity here to ask ourselves, what do we truly want to be? What do we want to represent, not only as a human on this planet, but also as a galactic brother and sister, as a reflection of light. And through this time that we're in right now, this master reset, who are we choosing to be? Is our story linear? Is our story multidimensional? Does our story have magnificence to it? And the understanding of all the power that we've been gifted? Does it portray and emanate the power and the light that we have? Or are we allowing a story of something of our outside of ourselves to be the truth? And I think there's a lot of that happening right now.
Mhm.
We're allowing something outside of us to corrupt our truth, to corrupt our genetics, to corrupt this planet and this solar system and beyond. I mean, what multidimensional level are you willing to play at, to see yourself at? Do you want to stay this big? Or do you want to move in through the omniverse with your power?
So we're going to share an example of how to materialize from thought. We are sitting right now in an Earth ship in Taos, created by Michael Reynolds. The vision of being independent from all systems, having a place that grows food, generates electricity, harvests water, made of earth, no air conditioning needed, no services from a city needed, Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to move the camera, but we recommend to look up Earth ships if you are not familiar with them. And we're staying in an Airbnb called the Raven's Nest. You can look it up in Taos. And this kind of vision has been a template that's been here on Earth. This is the Tesla template. This is the Jack Fresco of the Venus Project template, the Buckminster Fuller template of a bio-future, a future of life that we're sharing. And behind us, right here, is a project we're working on. This is a 3D printed model of a dome structure that has been envisioned as an ascension technology. What if is the question that master bioarchitects like Paolo Soleri and Arco Santi near Sedona asked the question, what if the buildings that we live in, the technology that we surround ourselves with, was manifested, materialized from an intention of everything that we touch from now on is a tool to accelerate self-actualization, to embody more of what we are. So what if we lived in houses made out of sacred geometry, proportion, in alignment with coherence, truth, balance, order, universal law, that had a frequency that established resonance in our life? And this is what we're getting to with the mantle of genetics. The expansion of what we are means that we are communicating with the planet in our homes that we live in. Inside these kinds of structures, create a cymatic pattern generated. This is a tool that fits into the flower of life, but it is an extension of the flower of life. Metatron's cube, all those beautiful seed geometries, knowing that we are the seed. Each one of us is the leading edge of a soul interacting in physicality. So while we have this global reset, while we are surrounded in fear messages, many of us in this broadcast, many of the audience here already is tuned in to an amplification of what it means to be human. So this is just one example of taking your greatest vision, asking questions, and we're going to share a little bit about these questions. The two pillars as a biofuturist that we are following for planetary liberation, one we call electric fire, which is free energy. And the second one we call liquid light, which is rejuvenation of the body. If we put those two endeavors together, creating free energy, abundant, that is in harmony with the planet, and speaking a dialogue with our DNA to regenerate every cell in our bodies, so that every cell that divides in our bodies, every cell mitosis process becomes a master ancestor cell, a cell that is beyond a stem cell. It is an ascension cell that can run around our bodies, detoxify, regenerate tissue, grow new neural networks, because what is being required now, we are being invited to think new, greater, complete, holistic thoughts. We have not been allowed to have a complete thought our entire lives. And this isn't victimhood, it is just an acknowledgement. So what happens when we deconstruct that? We can think about a future of a planetary that is being liberated by humans who have taken it upon themselves through personal action and responsibility to create ascension devices as models for others to ask questions. Mm-hmm. To create seeds for communities of eco-cities of the future, and to engage in what we call the economy of ascension and grace. Acurda, share a little bit more about what we're talking about here.
Well, first I wanted to touch on free energy and energy moving in freedom, is that we get to understand the first principle of that, and that is our energy moving in freedom. We have the keys to liberate all humans and this planet. But we get to understand the mastery of the energetics and consciousness through our DNA in order to do that. And when we start to understand our energy moving in freedom, and we stop participating in all of these different control matrix belief systems that are not reflective, not mirrors to our highest truth, we will start to shift everything on this planet. And when we start to realize our energy moving in freedom, our magnificence as creators in coherence with Gaia, animals, the solar system, the universe, the multiverse, the omniverse, when we really start to understand that and start to embody that, we start to cherish life, all life. And so the economy of ascension and grace is an opportunity for us to put value back into each other instead of external forces, where we can start valuing life, how things are grown, how things are built, not because they're cost effective, they look good on paper, that they serve a purpose not only for us, but for future generations, that they serve a beacon to the omniverse of the type of souls that we are, the type of embodied soul humans that we are, where we value each other's perspectives. And I've seen so much stuff on the internet right now tearing each other down of this division that's happening here in the United States about vaccinations and other things. But where do we value each other, our perspectives, and our choices? I keep seeing everybody posting these, it's time to wake up, and to wake up with all this, everything is a propaganda. Doesn't matter what side you're on. And so, can we value each other? Can we value our perspectives? Can we value our free choices with love and compassion? Can we build economies on that? Can we stop building economies on consumerism, vampirism, parasitic natures, and build economies on love and compassion and trust and abundance and perspective and creativity and joy for each other and for the gift of this planet that we've been given?
The invitation at the moment is to invoke ascended thinking in everything as we return to our jobs, as we attend to the new reset reality. Each step from now on will include a new coherence. That means a new intention. And this begins by asking deeper questions about why we are here on Earth at this moment. So we're going to share a little bit of these questions. We hear about free energy devices, magnetic-based technology, quantum, cold fusion, and so forth. Let us hold right now in our hearts every single visionary, every single inventor who have had the courage to stand up and say, here is a solution for humanity. And let us respond to that the way we respond to a celebrity on television, the way we respond to some sports figure, the way we respond to the plastic toys at Walmart, the way we get excited and pull out our money and here's the latest iPhone. That level of excitement and give and support and surround and embrace all visionaries in your life. Look around you Go online, go to Kickstarter, go to Indiegogo and see how many people are putting bold propositions on the table beyond any university, beyond any government organization, beyond any secret space program disclosure, beyond any Q post, are the true boots on the ground, these individuals that have risked everything to bring this about. So here's a question for us. What are we going to do when we have free energy? When we have abundance that is coming this very year? Trump and others have talked about investing in quantum technologies. It's been slipped in there. Have talked about solutions that generate a new kind of electricity, a new kind of coherence that is not this junk running through our walls at the moment.
Or the distortion of 5G.
Or these technologies for communication. Our bodies contain telepathic abilities, ability to share quantum conscious multimedia without any electronics. So that's one pillar, the free energy. What if you had the energy to do whatever you wanted and never had to pay for electricity? You could drive your car across the country without ever refilling, all of that. That's one side. The other one is the rejuvenation, regeneration of your body. What are you going to do when you can be fully healthy? When we can tune ourselves to a coherent frequency that no parasitic viruses could attach themselves. Pure consciousness is the healer. The awareness of releasing toxins in our bodies, the understanding that the idea of a virus is false. Linus Pauling himself recanted at the end of his career and said, I am wrong about the way I thought about bacteria and viruses. So make the leap to understand that there is a possibility of a future that is already here, of a healthy body, a healthy mind, open heart, working with the tools that were given to us from the universe, the abundant electricity, the abundant light, the abundant healing, to discover the psychedelic properties of all food. So when we are in tune, our body is at a level of presence. When you have a salad, you will have a mantle download from the genetics of true, living, healthy food. When we drink coherent, structured, clean, solar-powered water, it is something else. It is a new plasma substance. And I know we're threading a lot of fancy vocabulary here, but these are key codes we are sharing with you, master genetic keys. With each word, it is a light language we're sharing with you that is in English so we can hear it. We are speaking to deeper parts of who we are with that. What are we going to do when we receive the mantle of our ancestors? I invite our viewers to do that ceremony. Ask, I am ready to receive and be more right this moment. And Acurda is going to guide us through a vision, and maybe I'll drop in a little something there too. What do you think about what that would be like? Mm-hmm. Tell a new story.
Mm-hmm. To tell a new story. So just go ahead and close your eyes and start to inhale and exhale. Let everything go. Trusting our higher selves to co-create the highest frequency outcome of love and light, not only for ourselves, but for all of humanity and the universal consciousness. And moving deeper into the body. Ask your higher self to show you one of your cells. A cell of light, of infinite potential and possibility. You may start to see that cell just like that normal little nucleus in the center and then move out to a bigger cell, but you are so much more than that. And in that cell has more than 144,000 quantum strands of DNA. How does that feel with that number, 144,000 infinite potentials and possibilities of stories, of your divine inheritance in this cell? And you start to see different colors, a whole new spectrum of ultraviolet light starting to appear in this cell. You may start to see intricate forms of geometry. Now, ask yourself, what does an ascension cell look like for you? What does it feel like? Do you feel all the illumination starting to emanate from that cell to every other cell with a complete new divinity coding? Does your body start to vibrate at a higher frequency? This ascension cell is your divine blueprint to the expansion, to the possibility of all that we have talked about today. Every cell starting to turn into this ascension cell with intricate colors and geometries and light vibrating higher and higher and more and more. Triggering regeneration, immunity, coherence, harmony, resonance, unity, love.
Within each one of us are the transitional tools, the conscious technologies of the now. There's an entire generation of young minds ready to do the heavy lifting, looking for visionaries and adults who get it. We invite all souls at the moment to step into collective integration, an environment of collaboration and creativity. A renaissance initiates now on Earth. We no longer compete. We no longer fight for resources. Let us release lack consciousness now. Poverty, beingness is to leave our lives, as we are abundant beings of pure energy, we establish new neural connections in our brain that integrate all the brains in our body, so that our future thoughts of what is possible show us and lead us to the answer of free energy, of healing solutions, of connecting with our star family, of enacting our actions from a conscious knowing that we are the leading hand of Creator. From our source, our body, our two legs, our hands, flows forward the message of Creator for an energetic Eden, where we acknowledge that we are already in the forest of abundance. We are already eating from the tree of life. Today we move from the tree of knowledge of good and evil into the tree of immortality. And let us together right now visualize holding a fruit in our hands from the tree of life. And let us burst forward right now a psychedelic awakening of the realm of possibilities of the unseen dimensions of who and what we are. As this act creates a fractal cascading, a branching that connects and superpositions all of us to entangle with the thousands of other bodies into the millions of other tribes that are right now tuning into this telepathic communication, so that our brothers and sisters out there everywhere who are ready to launch their projects, their visions, their technologies, their designs for eco-cities of the now, there will no longer be a time we work alone. From this moment forward, we are a tribe of light, as we have heard this floral language. And let us share this vision with the current leadership and position a time with no leadership, no need for a control structure any longer.
Thank you. We don't have all the answers, but here are our solutions. And our solutions are multidimensional DNA and understanding your infinite potential and possibility through your DNA. And that's the kind of courses that I offer. And those are my solutions, how to be an architect of your own DNA. And we have this solution right here.
It's called the Vocahedron, like a dodecahedron. Look it up online, Fernando Vosa and the Vocahedron. You will know about this project. We're ready to prototype this.
And so if you would like to know more about us or the way that we are creating solutions, please contact us. We would love to have an opportunity to connect. Thank you so much.
Hello, that was absolutely amazing. I think you inspired a lot of people. We had people commenting. One man's gonna go cut up his furniture with a chainsaw.
Everything.
We're designing a new civilization from the ground up. Every molecule of this future, we're putting into action now.
And to give people the courage to do that and to support each other. You know, we have several communities I have a very large community because we need support. Everybody needs support. We've traveled this journey for so long by ourselves, right? That we're in a time where there are so many of us right now, light workers all over the world. And we get to have support, and you're supported, and to reach out, because this is going to take all of us.
It's going to take all of us.
We can't do this alone. We can't orchestrate and architect our DNA alone. This is leaving a legacy of light for humanity.
Well, it's been absolutely amazing. The vibration that was coming off, the frequency that was coming off from both of you was amazing. It actually, a few times we had a little bit of like glitching going on, but it was all because of your frequency. So that was amazing.
The Earth ship, there's a lot of pumps and devices running, circulating the water, feeding the gardens. So we were hearing the mechanism of this house, breathing and moving energy and light and air and water while we were here.
And what we found that was interesting, we were having a little tiny bit of a conversation on the side. We found it was interesting that whenever Fernando would speak, it was like the frequency changed in the computer and then it would go back to Acurda, and it would fluctuate, and it would take a little bit of time to like get back to her frequency, and then it would go back. It was
That's
very
so interesting.
Yeah.
We're here to remind people that we can talk to the crystals in the computers. We can talk to the gold and the silica and have a conversation with all technology at once.
Yeah.
Because it's made up of the same stuff our body's made up of.
And we're moving into that balance of masculine and feminine. And, even the principles inside DNA, the double helix, are masculine and feminine. And, we found that we're so powerful together, right? We're so powerful from that space of intellect and the face, that the frequency of heart together, and that we create a whole new set of vibration and frequency and geometry in the morphogenetic field when we work together. And it's been just a beautiful transition for both of us and our communities.
Yes.
Well, I thank you very much for coming on and being part of the expo today. And hopefully we're going to be having future expos. Hopefully you'll come back and tell us what's happening with all of it.
Thank you, Robin.
The future goes.
And thank you to everyone.
Yeah.
And I put up the links while you were talking, if people wanted to try to catch you. But can you tell people how they can get a hold of you?
So there are a few ways that people can get a hold of me. They can email me at Acurda, ACURDA, @livingyourdna.com. And then I believe you have my website already. It's more like a landing page that opts into the community, which is livingyourdnacode.com. And then...
For those who want to know more about the Vocahedron project, look up Fernando Vosa on YouTube. And I am easy to find on Facebook. And my private email is fernandoprivate@gmail.com. Learn about this project, as it is a whole community worldwide building this new eco-future.
Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to let you go, and we're going to bring on our next guest.
Thank you, Robin.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I want to thank everybody so much for watching Acurda and Fernando, and to thank them both for their appearance in the Higher Self Expo. This is Zane Daniel, the founder and the director of the Higher Self Expo. At the time of this recording, our second event, which is September 12th and 13th, is only 4 weeks away, and you're starting to see on the YouTube channel and on the Facebook group some interviews of upcoming speakers, so definitely tune into those. And we still have plenty more videos from the first event. You definitely want to register at thehigherselfexpo.com to be added to the mailing list to find out who the speakers are, what the schedule is, and what each of the topics are. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.